What happens when your book editor misses a deadline? This is something that comes up a lot inside of the publishing industry. This is something that comes up a lot recently. So let's break down what you need to know to make sure you're protected in this industry and that you understand what's going on and what steps you need to be taking. So as somebody who's worked with a lot of editors over her time and who has helped both the editors and the authors to handle situations like this, let's have a conversation about this. And it needs to start before you actually start working with the editor. You need to make sure there is a contract in place signed with information on it before you officially start to work with this person and before you pay them. This contract is going to have specific deadlines for you to understand and what happens if those deadlines are missed. There's going to be specific language in these contracts that spell these things out. And if you are not somebody who has a contract with a person, that could lead to some issues for you. So you want to make sure that before you work with anybody, you understand that contract. So again, in a contract with an editor, you will have deadlines that are to be met listed out specifically in your contract, and then a clause about what happens if they do not fulfill their part of the contract. Now, with that in mind, you can then go back to that person and say, hey, listen, we've got these deadlines, here's the plan, here's what's going on, here's what it said in your contract, what do we need to do, what are the next steps? So I recommend that you stay in constant communication with this editor. You need to be emailing them. If they're late by a day, give them a little grace. I understand, you understand, we know things are going on. If you don't hear from them by the next day or the next 2 days, it's time to check in with them and say, hey, listen, we had a deadline, is everything okay? Is there anything I need to know about? What's going on here? And make sure you open that communication. Do not be accusatory. We're not coming at them filled with rage. We need to have a conversation. Keep this as civil and polite as possible. If you need to get tough later on, that's a different story. But up front, we don't want to be aggressive with this, because when we come to them with aggression, they're going to come back at us with aggression. We need to keep this as easy as possible, and it could be a simple misunderstanding. It could be a blip with their calendar. It could be that they had a family emergency. There could be a health concern and they were not able to reach out to you. We know with everything going on in the world, especially right now, sometimes people can get sick and then not be able to reach out to you for a few days because they are that sick that quickly. And so give them a little grace, give them a little mercy, give them a little understanding. And pro tip, when you are working with an editor, you need to be doing this well in advance before book publication so that you're not missing deadlines. You have to, in your own schedule, build in time for things to go wrong. This is on you to build in that extra time if things go wrong, because you cannot control the world around you or what other people do. So don't miss your own deadlines because you push things too quickly and you didn't build in that time in your own schedule. You have to adjust for other people should something come up. It's not always going to come up, but you have to be prepared for that just in case. Now, with that in mind, you've reached out, you're waiting to hear back from them. Do not do anything just yet. We're not panicking. We're not rushing off to PayPal to say they didn't do things on time and starting a war. We're not doing that yet. Give them 24 to 48 hours to respond to you. If you do not hear from them then, now you need to start reaching out again. If this is a prolonged ghosting and they're not getting back to you and they're not responding, now we start to have a little bit of a problem. So we want to make sure that we are in constant communication with them, and if it's going to be a problem, then we take next steps. Then we're going to reach out to PayPal and say, hey, listen, it's been a week, it's been 2 weeks, and I still do not have the finished product that I was promised through this contract. Here's the contract, here's the evidence that I don't have it. I would like my money back, and then you can go work with somebody else. That could be a little bit of a trial and tribulation period for you. There could be a lot of back and forth because you do have that burden of proof. But if you do hear back from your person, now it's a different conversation. Let's say you reach out and they were sick, or they had an emergency come up, or something happened and they weren't able to get it to you. Now we have a conversation of, well, what are the next steps? You need to be talking about, when can you get this done? Because you missed your deadline. I have deadlines. I need to get things done. Let's get this done in the next 24 to 48 hours. If they can get it done in the next 24 to 48 hours, you're probably good. Give them the grace. Maybe don't work with that person again if it's going to be something that comes up outside of an emergency. But we're not going to push things. We're not going to be problematic for them. Now, if it's more than a week, 2 weeks, a month, now we can start to say, okay, you didn't do this on time, so what are you going to do to make up for this? Because this is not our business working relationship. This is not in the contract. This is not how things are done. This is unprofessional. So what are we going to do to fix this? I would not use the word unprofessional, because that's when people start to get aggressive with things, but you can say, this is not what was supposed to happen, so how can we fix this? And give them the opportunity. Let them see if they can come up with something. Oftentimes they'll say, well, let me give you a chunk of money off for your next book, and I promise I'll make sure I have that done on time or early. They can say, hey, listen, I'm going to do something extra for you, or I'm going to give you a discount, I'm going to give you some money back, whatever it happens to be. If they don't have any ideas, you can also make these suggestions. I would like $30 off of my next book editing, or I would like a percentage off of whatever else I'm doing with you service-wise, or I would like something to make up for this. Typically, we don't want to say money back because people don't want to give you money back, but if you can get money in another way by saying, I want a percent off or a certain amount of money off of the next time, most of them are going to be willing to accommodate that. And again, this all depends on how egregious this missed deadline was. If it was a day or two, we're probably not going to give very much. It's not a good look for the editor, but they're probably not going to be super giving on this one because it was within a realm of, okay, it's understandable. If it was 2 weeks, if it was 2 months, now we start to have issues and we're going to start to see some real fallout from this. So they have to either really step it up and fix this and then don't work with that person again. If it's more than like 2 weeks, don't work with that person again. They're not being professional. But they really need to make it up to you because they know, they understand, we all understand that if they do not fix this, if they do not make this right, you're going to tell your friends are going to tell their friends, and they're going to end up blacklisted in this community. And that's never a good thing. So we want to make sure that we're very, very aware of those time frames. Give them grace when you can. Make sure you're in communication. If they are good at communicating with you, give them a little more mercy on this depending on the situation, depending on what's going on. Now, if they're just being lazy and they're just not doing it, which we have seen quite a bit in this industry, now you need to take your next steps. You need to decide what you're going to do. Maybe let your friends know this is not the person to work with. Maybe you're not going to want to thank them in your acknowledgments. You're not going to want to give them that credit. You're not going to want to be somebody who is representative of them. Maybe you leave a review in some places. But again, we're doing this with grace and with mercy and to help other people make decisions if it is absolutely essential. If they have been atrocious about this, maybe you can leave that negative review. Otherwise, you're not going to want somebody to come and attack you just because it wasn't a great experience one time with you. So you've got to be very aware and diligent of how you're using your words to represent yourself in this industry and your reputation in this industry connected to them. So we need to make sure that we are paying attention to those deadlines, we're following the contract, we are having the conversations, and then worst case, if something terrible happens and they're just not getting back to you, now you're going to have to go to the source of where you paid to get some of that money back. So there's a lot that goes into that. If you want further conversation on that, go ahead and let me know down below. But really it comes down to you need to build in deadlines for yourself that have a gap of time just in case they don't get things accomplished in a timely fashion. You need to have a backup plan should something go amiss and you cannot work with that person anymore. So who else can you work with and how quickly can you get that done? You need to make sure you're in communication with them, especially if you're noticing that deadlines are being missed and you're about to miss some of your deadlines or it's going to impact your schedule as well. And then you are required to go to them and say, hey, listen, contract says these are the deadlines. You haven't made these deadlines. What are we going to do? What are the next steps now? And facilitate that conversation. Do it with grace and with mercy and with compassion. And if you do that, they are much more likely to get it handled for you and get it fixed so that you guys can both move forward together. If you come with aggression, they're likely to come back with aggression, and there could be problems with that. I've seen so many people who have missed their deadlines and then turned on the author. We have had situations even recently where creators, not editors, but other types of people in the industry missed their deadlines and then turned it on the author and badmouthed them publicly. So the way that you interact and engage with these people could potentially determine the outcome of this. Be professional. Have the receipts, have the proof if you need it to go to PayPal, to go to Stripe, to go to wherever, or to defend yourself if you need to against whatever it is they're saying publicly. Make sure you have documentation of everything. Make sure you are doing everything through email communications. DMs on social media do not count and don't actually hold up in a court of law. So should you have to, if something goes incredibly amiss, go to court over this, you're going to need to have that proof and those DMs don't count. So make sure everything is done through email and you have communications where you consistently say, these are the terms that you agreed to, here's what is not happening, and here's what needs to happen next. You are directing this conversation and you're making sure that things are getting handled, and if not, then you need to take action to protect yourself, your manuscript, your work, and your own deadlines to get your book out into the world. Questions, comments, things we need to be talking about, go ahead and drop those down below. And as always, if you have questions on the legal side of this, we also have everybody's favorite IP and entertainment lawyer joining us every single week, dropping knowledge to help keep you legally protected in this industry. So feel free to ask the legal questions too, and I will ask him the next time we are doing a recording to make sure that we get your questions answered for you. Daily videos are dropping here to help you level up in the writing and reading world to be more profitable this year while you are thriving in this space but spending less time, effort, and stress to create the content to allow you to do well in this industry. We will see you in the next episode.